A subscriber asked me to cover the Christian band Hillsong, saying that their music puts people into a hypnotic state and makes a lot of money in the process. The subscriber cited concerts with hypnotic light shows. I never listened to Hillsong's music because it seemed designed to prey on human emotion, and that turned me off. Hillsong's worship expressions include raised hands, vocal utterance, and dance. The church is known for its contemporary worship music, and that music is pretty much the foundation of their so-called church service. It's also been widely influential in other Pentecostal and evangelical churches. Hillsong's music has released over 40 albums since 1992. Hillsong and its music have been highly successful globally and described as a global corporate brand. It's not just a church and music brand. The brand includes Hillsong Television, a college, a large social media presence, and merchandising. But a series of scandals and criticisms have negatively affected the church's image in recent years. And I've heard about some of those scandals in passing, just because it's hard not to, because they have been advertised so much. I never paid attention to that because it seemed so contrived, kind of like a reality show, but I honestly hadn't given it much thought until now. Based on my current research, after this subscriber requested it, some of the controversy has been spotlighted in the media way too much to be organic. That's not to say that some of the scandals did not occur, but I wonder if all the publicity of the church and then the scandals wasn't designed to smear faith in Jesus Christ. I will review why I hold that theory and how that may have been organized in this video. Hillsong as a brand started as a Christian charismatic megachurch in Australia in 1983, led by Brian Houston. Brian Houston is the son of Frank Houston, who was a pastor of his own Pentecostal church in New South Wales, Australia, beginning in the 70s. Frank Houston sexually abused boys over the course of his ministry. One of the 9 identified victims was routinely subjected to sexual abuse in the 60s and 70s when he was 7 to 12 years old. But that abuse was not reported until 1999. It says that it was reported to the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse. This institution was established in Australia to inquire into allegations of child sexual abuse in Australia by various religious organizations, Catholic priests and religious orders, the YMCA, the Scouts, and the Salvation Army. The Salvation Army was where Frank Houston apparently began his ministry and his abuse prior to establishing his church. Frank Houston was an officer in the Salvation Army, whatever that means. In many cases, when abuse was reported, the abusers were just moved around within the organizations instead of charges being filed or even resulting in dismissal of the abuser. Witnesses who testified against the Salvation Army told the Royal Commission that they were regularly sexually abused by Salvation Army officers, and that testimony is so disgusting that I'm not going to repeat it here. As a result of the reported abuse in 1999, Frank Houston resigned from his church in 2000 and ended up dying in 2004. I don't think he was ever arrested or charged for his crimes, or at least I couldn't find any information or report that he was. But as a result of all this, Frank's church then merged with his son Brian's church, Hillsong Church, in 2000. And this person on the screen is Brian Houston. So, Hillsong Church is Brian's church, and it had been active since 1983, and had already been very quickly becoming an international corporate brand with branches in London and other large cities. Hillsong met in London's West End theaters and university halls around London. Eventually, they set up a 2-year residency at the Mermaid Centre and Theatre, where the brand really took off and grew into a megachurch in the 80s and 90s from London. And this was largely driven by young people attracted to its contemporary worship music. Then between 2008 and 2018, Hillsong Church planted churches in Russia, South Africa, Sweden, Israel, Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. But how and why did it take off? The pastor, Brian Houston, was supposedly just a small-time Pentecostal pastor in New South Wales, Australia, prior to becoming this international corporate brand. And Australia is a Commonwealth country. So was the Hillsong megachurch empire used to cast a negative representation of followers of Jesus? The part about the father being a pedophile is part of the controversy that I think is true, and then I think it was used to create this entire psyop. Frank Houston was sexually molesting boys in the Salvation Army and in his church through the 60s and 70s and 80s, and maybe even his own children. Isn't that how it usually goes? Then his son Brian starts a church and gains global success with one of its main influential international branches in London, which is where Tavistock and other cultural and social engineering organizations are located. Tavistock is infamous for using music to create social and cultural engineering. So from the mid-'80s until recently, Hillsong has been this evangelical, charismatic global brand. In 2010, Hillsong New York City, a branch of Hillsong Global, was established by Joel Houston, the eldest son of Brian Houston. So Hillsong New York City has been known for its celebrity connections, including Justin Bieber, Kevin Durant, Kylie and Kendall Jenner, Nick Jonas, and Selena Gomez, just to name a few. I think Jay-Z is in there too. So Hillsong New York City was led by Carl Lentz, a supposed pastor known as the rock star pastor, who was in with the celebrities in the Hollywood elite. Carl Lentz was one of the most prominent pastors in the U.S., appearing on The View and Oprah, and giving interviews to all of those media outlets. Carl Lentz attended King's College in L.A., and then he transferred to Hillsong International's Leadership College in Sydney, Australia, where he hooked up with Joel Houston. Then he eventually became pastor of Hillsong New York City, the supposed celebrity church. He also established this close so-called mentorship with Justin Bieber, even hosting him in his home. So now I'm going to play a little of an interview done with Carl Lentz and Justin Bieber from the Hillsong Conference of 2017 so that you can see how contrived this is.
2017, having the best time, and got some good friends of mine that have stopped by on the couch. We've got Chad, Justin, and Carl. I love you, man.
I want you to know you're loved.
Thank you so much. Guys, so how you guys doing? Are you guys enjoying conference, Carl? You're wearing a Hillsong college
jacket.
You see these boots? Those are very cool.
It wasn't your turn.
Off-white. These are off-white.
It wasn't your turn.
These are off-white. So
These are off-white.
Chad, good to see you.
Shout out Virgil.
Shout out Virgil.
Shout out Virgil. Virgil, do you watch CBS?
Did you see his talk? We watched his talk together.
Yeah, it was a very good talk.
Very good. So, guys, really quick, you guys have been all over the place. Carl, how you doing? How you enjoying conference so far?
You know what? We had the best day today.
Yeah.
I just enjoy seeing people worship, praising God.
And I think it's always really kind of wild and amazing to watch such young kids passionately
Them praying.
in.
Just real, authentic, you know?
Absolutely. Enzo.
So, theme closer, what does that mean to you guys?
I want to live a life that's closer to God than ever before.
Absolutely. Justin?
Samesies.
Samesies. Carl?
I want to get close like that wisp is to Justin. No, I want to get better. That's why
I just
we all
want to love
came.
people more. I just want to love Carl more.
You're doing a good job with that.
So,
man.
Justin, this is your second time at Hillsong Conference?
Yes.
And what's different this time about being here?
I just think my faith grows every day. So my faith is stronger than 2 years ago. Better, stronger, wiser, kinder.
I think anything that you invest in, and there's a return.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people investing in different things. We all chose to, let's go invest in this. And our return has been supernatural.
Yeah.
Stuff you can't necessarily quantify, but my gosh, it changes your soul. So anybody who's thinking about it, I would just say, look at what you invest in now and what the return is. If you don't like that, I would say maybe have a look at investing. It doesn't have to be this per se, but something that builds your soul. For us, it happens to be this, and we got room for anybody. We have to go, but we're all going to shout out our moms.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's start with
So I'll
you.
go first. I'm down here. Kathy Lentz, I love you. I miss you. Thanks for being my mom. I think you're the greatest. Tied for probably top 3, 4 on this couch. But Kathy, I love you.
We love
Miss
you, Kathy.
Mom.
She's a great.
Love you, Kathy.
Patty, my mom, love you so much. Miss you. Hope you're doing awesome.
Closer on
Put
3.
our hands in here. 3 ninjas on 4.
No,
3
closer.
Ninjas? Okay,
On
closer.
3.
Closer on 3.
3.
Closer. 3 ninjas. We love you. Bye.
Justin Bieber seemed like he or she was on drugs there, which is strange when giving an interview about a supposed Christian conference with a supposed pastor. And I just find it very strange that all of these celebrities would be attending this church. It seems this was done to draw attention to it. My theory is that attention was drawn specifically to set it up for a fall with very advertised scandals. Carl Lentz was supposedly fired in 2020 due to allegations of misconduct, and it was a very public scandal with a Stormy Daniels flavored character as the mistress, who then became a celebrity in her own right. And then several other mistresses supposedly came forward also against Carl Lentz. But he's still married to his wife. And that's strange, and they're loaded, and that's not normal, people, I can tell you that. Not after several affairs and that sort of thing, for them to still be married. Then in 2021, New South Wales police issued a warrant for Brian Houston, alleging that he concealed the child sexual abuse by his father, Frank. But in 2023, he was found not guilty of covering up his father's sex crimes. So before that, Houston stepped down as a global senior pastor after being investigated for inappropriate behavior with women. But I think he's still loaded as well. Now I'm going to just go over all the media coverage that those scandals have gotten, because the rise and demise of Hillsong has been aired on a number of media platforms. Too many to be organic, if you ask me. In 2021, 60 Minutes aired a segment called Hillsong Hell, with an interview of a woman who claims to have been raped inside the church, and the incident was downplayed by the church. 2022, Discovery Plus released a documentary series, Hillsong, a mega church exposed, revealing allegations of child sex crimes, extramarital affairs, and mishandling of money. In 2023, Paramount released a satirical series on TV, which included an episode about Hillsong. The Herald Sun produced a podcast titled, quote, Faith on Trial. In 2023, Hulu released a 4-part documentary series titled The Secrets of Hillsong, in conjunction with Vanity Fair. And then Vanity Fair and their magazines published a bunch of articles about it too, regarding various scandals with a focus on Carl Lentz. There have been books written about them. For example, the one titled People in Glass Houses, an insider story of a life in and out of Hillsong. And that one had specific criticisms covering authoritarian governance in the church, a lack of financial accountability, resistance to free thought, and strict fundamentalist teachings described as toxic Christianity. And those images that I was showing were from a YouTube video documentary from a channel titled Not the Good Girl, about Carl Lentz and his scandal. And that video has 3.7 million views, so people who are naive and not in a relationship with Jesus would likely watch this and get a bad taste in their mouth about Christianity. I think in the video, this girl refers to it as toxic Christianity also. So, that's kind of the buzzword associated with this Hillsong Scandal, toxic Christianity. It's like a word spell. Hillsong has been criticized by politicians, media, community groups, and Christian leaders, and many of them focus on their LGBTQ agenda, or non-agenda, which also seems like part of the PSYOP. So what I think happened with Hillsong is that Frank Houston was groomed in the Salvation Army to do exactly what he did with the young boys. Or maybe he was just demonized and did it on his own and got caught. But regardless of how that happened, it seems that situation was used to elevate the family church and create this megachurch empire with hypnotic emotional music as a focal point to draw people in. And with all of that starting and being crafted in London, where the Hillsong Church took off, and in the theater, no less. Remember, London is where Tavistock is located, and they are infamous for using music to social engineer. Then in the U.S., specifically with the celebrities and rock star pastor, they drew a lot of attention to the so-called Christian church. And then the scandalous situations were crafted with the sole purpose of being publicized to paint those who follow Jesus as hypocritical and therefore throwing shade on true Christianity, citing pride, greed, hypocrisy, sexual immorality, abuse, etc. And I'm not saying that those things are not to be criticized. What I'm saying is that in the case of Hillsong, I believe it was at least in part crafted and planned, which is precisely what the enemy loves to do. Thanks for listening.